And good evening, everybody. Welcome to Going Nuclear, full blown coverage of the land. I am Ethan Greenberg, along with my co host Madison Delaney, and we have a special guest, Kia Zolgernen, former Canton Invader indoor soccer legend. Um, we are presented by Buzz Sports CLE. Thank you for joining us this evening, everybody. Kia joining us all the way from Destin, Florida on vacation. We really appreciate him taking the time to join our program. How are you doing this evening, Kia?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Excellent, excellent. What have you been able to do down in Florida? How have the temperatures been?
It's been really hot. I think today was like the hottest day on record. We went to watch dolphins today. You
Oh,
can't really be on
wow.
the beach for too long. Yeah, we saw a lot of dolphins. Beach is so hot. So, but we're in a really nice place. My wife got just 4 golf courses around us. It's really nice. So we're blessed.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not so much of a golfer. Maybe a little miniature golf. I do like going to the vacation resort type towns when you can play a little mini golf. I never quite developed a skill for golfing, even though my father-in-law, he's an avid golfer, as
Right.
he's retired. But I don't get that. What are you shooting these days? What's your score?
Me, I don't golf. My
Oh,
stepson does.
your
No, I don't.
stepson.
I'm not a. Yeah, my stepson golf. He's a big golfer. So golfing takes too long. Unlike a lot of soccer players are good golfers, but I never really picked it up. I think
Right.
when I first joined the Invaders, we had a charity event at Bobolink, and on the first tee, they wanted me to tee off, and I was only like 18 years old. I didn't know how to golf at all. I went to tee off, and I hit the guy who organized it with the ball. After that, I just putted.
Yeah, that was probably a good thing to do. You could play,
And he
best
was standing
ball.
like in front of, I mean, to square from me, not ahead of me. So
Oh,
I totally shanked it.
whoopsie, whoopsie. Well, that is not so good. So the golf game not so good, but
Right.
the
If you
soccer.
you saw me play soccer, I'm not that way in golf.
I saw you play soccer as I was in, elementary school years, coming down to the Canton Civic Center
Right.
and seeing you play and the excitement around the Canton Invaders. It was amazing. I'm pretty certain you even probably made the rounds and came to my elementary school in Plain Local, amongst many other stops that they had you going to. But
I'm sure I did.
your journey to Canton, it started in Iran. And
Correct.
so you left Iran in approximately, if I'm, got my information correct, around 1978. Is that about right?
Yeah, right. Right before, right after the revolution,
Right.
right before the Iran hostages.
Wow, that is amazing. And in Iran, I would have to assume, just, I mean, you played a lot of soccer there.
I actually, my story, and this is the craziest thing, is I never played organized soccer. My parents didn't let me play. Because you can only either play on the streets or you belong to an academy. And my parents never let me play in the streets. So I used to watch from the high rise the kids playing in the street, and I would play in my head with them. But I never. So I was always me, my ball, a ball, and we had a big hallway. So I would play in the hallway. I would go score on one wall, go the other way, score on the other wall. After I watched the kids play, and I watched soccer on TV a lot. Um, so yeah, my story is not the same as most. And I came to America when I was freshman in high school, so I was 13, and my high school didn't have soccer, so I actually played tennis my first year. And I found out that there was clubs around, so I first joined a rec team, which was like a YMCA team in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I had just come here. I think it was August of '78.
Okay.
So I joined. I saw them playing in a park, and I went and talked to a guy, and they let me play, and I had skill. So, but when I first came to the first playoff, they told me because I was doing pretty good because I could dribble and I had skill. Um, they said I couldn't play in the playoff because I signed up too late.
Oh
So I
my
was
goodness.
crying. It was my first experience of American soccer. I was crying like they're keeping me way out of a rec league.
That
So
is such a start. I
it's
mean, just an amazing
yeah,
journey.
yeah. So I trained all my summer by myself, and I was like, I was gonna come back next year and play, and I did, and then I found out there's club soccer, which is more advanced, and I was asked to go play for this team in Tempe Pumas. Um, and our owner, I had a Spanish coach who really taught me discipline and what organized soccer was. And my finally by my junior year in high school, the year before, I had gotten enough signatures and raised enough money to start a soccer program at our high school. So I played high school soccer 2 years. We won one game, and I was playing indoor soccer in Arizona because it was air conditioned, and I had to drive an hour from Scottsdale to play it. And ever since growing up, I tell the story kind of constantly to children that whatever it is you want in life, if you manifest it and you constantly dream about it, it's going to happen. So ever since I was a little kid, my dream was to be a soccer player, and I always dreamt that there is a scout watching me, no matter what. Even when I was at high school, no matter, I just pretended there was a scout. So I always played as there was a scout watching me. And when I was playing in the men's league, the professional team had the offices there, and that's actually how the pro coach saw me. And back then in the '80s, you needed 3 American on a roster of an MISL. And because I went to high school there, the coach was a Portuguese guy, Tony Samoas, which is like a Portuguese legend. He was on Pele's top 11. When Pele picked his top 11, Tony Samoas was the starting left back. I mean, left winger. He was a little guy, and he played for Benfica, and he was world class. And when he saw me, he said I reminded him of him, just because I was little. So in '83, I became the youngest, lightest, and the shortest player to sign a professional contract in America. I was only 17, so they offered me a contract. I was like, "What?" I never really played organized soccer, so I went from 1 year, one win in high school, playing 1 or 2 years of club soccer, to straight to professional. So it was a extremely adjusting times.
I would imagine so. It's kind of a whirlwind. When you said you talked about back at home in Iran when you were younger and you weren't able to play with the other kids, did playing in the hall, the bouncing of the ball, off the walls and this, that, and the other, did that in any way help when you made it
Well,
to
I
the
wasn't
pro
allowed
league?
to have it. Well, I think I was. For one, is like I was never allowed to have a regular soccer ball. I don't think I bought my regular soccer ball till I was 20.
Oh
I
my
bought my
goodness.
first soccer ball. I used tennis balls, and so that I had a really good first touch, and I could dribble. And growing up, I watched a lot of soccer. So I'm actually, what I always say is I'm the opposite of an American soccer player, which is American soccer player starts at the age of 5, 6. They go through the rec leagues, travel leagues, but they don't really know the game till they get older and they get taught. I was actually the reverse. I knew the game. I knew every player in the world. I knew the systems of play. Um, it, Except I just never had any training. So I had to kind of learn on the job. And then early on, I realized, I only weighed 125 pounds back then. That this is a big man's game, and if I'm little, there has to be a reason for them to keep you around. So if you score goals, no one can argue with you. So I figured that out real quick. So I
Yeah.
always somehow figure out how to score goals.
And
So
you certainly did a lot of that in your career.
yeah, about 623 times.
Just a few, just a few. When you were watching a lot of professional soccer, who are some of your soccer heroes?
Well, I tell this story all the time. Is when I was about 6 years old, my mom had cancer, and my dad, they went on one trip for about 3 months before we went to Europe, that took my mom for treatment, and they came back, and then she had to get treatment, and my dad said, well, the treatment was in England, and he said, we're going to go to Spain and Germany before we go to England for your mom to get treatment, so I'm going to take you to Europe. So I asked him if he would take me any soccer games, because every time I went to soccer games, there was a pro team in my town, and that was one of my favorite things. My dad or my uncle take me out. I would daydream that they're going to pick a player to play in the field if you have something under your seat. And I would daydream that they picked me. So whenever I was playing soccer or I was watching soccer, I always pretend that I was playing. So, and it kind of became reality, when I was 17. And when we went to Spain. The first game I saw was, he took me to Camp Nou. I saw Barcelona
Wow.
play, and then we went to Germany, to Munich Stadium. I saw Bayern Munich play. Gerd Mueller was one of my favorite players, and then from there we went to England. And somehow we were in Sheffield, and my dad took me to Sheffield and Man United. So Man United has been my team since I was 6 years old. And for some reason, they were the away team, but it's kind of like them. I don't think they were very good, but so I used to, stay up and watch every World Cup game. I think I was in my mid-20s when I missed my first World Cup game, watching it live, because I would always stay up and watch every game. Yeah. So it kind of was, my dream. And when it came true at 17, I kept on to it. A voice actually told me, go teach it. So the day I turned pro, I started coaching. So I've been coaching for 40 years. And I went back to the team that I was playing playing club ball with, and I asked them if I could coach him. And then they said, sure. So at 18, I don't know, when I came to Canton, I started coaching. I was doing ODP as, being involved as a state coach at 18. So I took coaching. Best way to learn anything is learn how to teach it. So that's been my career. I played soccer, during the day, and I trained in the afternoon on my own, and in the evenings I went and coached. And so that's been pretty consistent all my life.
That is, I mean, it's just such all the dedication and time and effort you put into it, even when things were challenging,
Yeah,
and you didn't waste
so,
any opportunities.
well, it takes action to get where you want in life. So, they say that it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert in anything. And ever since I was a kid, when I was 15, my coach and the Spanish coach taught us how to journal. And when you write down your dreams and goals, you can keep writing it. You can have the power to manifest it. So I have volumes and volumes of journals ever since I was a kid. And I always go back to them and read them. It's kind of cool. And I kept track. So by the time I was like 45, I had put in 135,000 hours, in the game, and how much time I've spent with the ball.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's just 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, just train, play. That was my life. In the summer times, between seasons, I ran camps and I trained. So it's just been, soccer is just not my passion, just my love. It's just my sustenance. And I'm really passionate about it. And whoever I do, in coaching, I like to start them as 4 or 5 year olds and see them graduate as 18. And I've been really blessed. I've had like 56, 57 kids turn pro, and almost 70-80% of them started with me when they were 5. So wow. I see them grow up, and I've done it 24, 25 times to take a 5-year-old and see them through. My children know, I was growing up as a lot of my players, I see them and spend more time with them than I do my own family. So you have a lot of kids.
And there you go. I mean, coaching is definitely a tough. That's a skill. That is an art form, a skill. As Madison said earlier,
it's not a science; it's art.
I mean, I have trouble trying to teach my kids how to tie a shoe or how to play a video game. let alone try and teach them a real skill,
Right.
and a sport and such.
Well,
If
it's very difficult to teach, and I always wonder. Um, I always wondered how people teach skill if they don't have it themselves. There's a lot of coaches who ask in soccer for players to do something where they could never do it in 100 years. So, and I learned a long time ago that I knew my purpose. Ever since I was a kid, I read a book by Joseph Campbell which said, "Follow your bliss, follow your bliss," and I knew what my bliss was. I had a purpose which was soccer, but also children. I'm really interested in child development. I'm a big advocate of children, and I love watching them grow and just be a part of their development. And in coaching, years ago, there's a very good book. It's called Inside Out Coaching, where it talks about Joe Ehrman. It talks about, there are two types of coaches in the world. 95% are transactional coaches. What do you do for me? I'll do this for you. And there's 5% of people who are transformational coaches, where they go, it's not just about wins and losses, it's about transforming people. And I learned, especially in soccer, it's one of the very few sports that it's mind, body, spirit, mind, body, spirit, mind, body, spirit. And if you're not working in all three, your development is lopsided. So I preach good grades. Even if I was growing up, I didn't know I was going to become a pro at 17. I had really good grades because I knew that's how I was going to go to college. And I had actually a scholarship to the University of Bridgeport in Connecticut. That's where I was headed right before my freshman year in college, where the pro coach said, "Hey, I've seen you play. Why don't you come to, we have this tryout. There's like 70 people here. It'll be 3 days of fun." And they're all like pros. And I was by far the youngest player there. Come in and train for 3 days. So when I did, they were like, "Well, I did really good. And it's like, we're going to offer you," I was the only one they kept, that they offered me a pro contract. And I knew back then, in order to be a good soccer player, you have to be good at everything. You have to be a good son, good husband, good role model, good neighbor. It doesn't work. The people that I've always seen that have not been such good guys off the field don't end up playing for a long time. And, I was very blessed to be able to do it for 17 years. And, now I give back to the sport. So that's my, I don't think I have any plans of retiring. My goal is to die on the sideline. I feel bad for my team that day, but one of these days, that's my goal. And I always tell my family I want to do the warm-ups in heaven. Be in charge of the warm-ups.
That's amazing. You can lead a group up there. You can definitely lead a group up there. So you start your indoor career in Phoenix for
Right.
one season. You're with now I've seen this in two different things. It was the Phoenix Pride, or was it the Phoenix Inferno in the MISL?
It was Inferno till the year I came along, and they had a new ownership, and the cable company, they bought the club, and they named it the Pride. So
okay,
I started as a baby lion, Pride.
Baby lion, and then the next year you burst onto the season in 1984, the 84-85 season. You come to Canton and you lead the Invaders in 40 games. I mean, this stat line is pretty impressive right here. 49 goals, 25 assists, 74 total points. That's pretty good. 6 power play goals. I mean, what was it like also coming from Arizona to Canton, Ohio?
So, as you know, I started in MISL, which was the major league. And as you find out real quick in soccer in America, it's not very stable. So after my first year, the team folded. My team went under. So I couldn't go back to college. And I was so young, because when they signed me to a 4-year contract, telling me that, you're so young, the next youngest player in the league was 4 years older than me. So they're like, "Well, we're going to develop you, but the first and second year." So they did a really good job, developing my first year, and I lived my trainer to put on weight. That was really the main focus. I mean, I think the first practice I had, I tore my groin because I had to carry someone up a hill. That was the very first practice, because the next person was 30 pounds heavier than me, and I remember like a lot of people, even Phoenix. I went to my first game, the preseason game, to the arena. Uh, the guard wouldn't let me in. He told me the ball boy entrance was in the back. I was like, I'm not a ball boy. I'm on the team, and he wouldn't believe me. So I had to wait for the other players to come. I was like, yeah, he's on the team, and they didn't even know why I was signed. Because I was so young, and I was, so the second practice I went to, one of the players, which he's a Scottish legend, and they all wanted to teach me a lesson. So he broke my nose. He threw an elbow and broke my nose. So that was my second practice. Yeah, so it was not easy. I did a year of, and the coach, told me that, here, we're going to do it really slow. We're not going to just throw you in. You have to learn, and it's a process, and you're under no pressure. So that first year in Phoenix, and I appeared in 15 games. My very first game, I got dressed, and he told me, it was like around Christmas time, that, you're going to play. So I dressed, and I'm on the bench first period, second period, I don't play at all. Third period, I'm just watching, and our goalie gets a penalty. So the coach told me to go and be in the penalty box. So I went in the penalty box. After it was over, he goes, run over. So I ran across the field, and he shook my hand. He goes, congratulations, you just played your first game, and you didn't make any you didn't make any mistakes. I was like, what? Because I ran across the field, that counted as game played. So he really understood development. He was really looking out for me, and this is kind of how it was. The next game a little bit more, the next game a little bit more, till one day we were at home, and I was dressed, and I'll never forget this. We're playing Dallas, and the game is 3-2. We're losing, and there's 2 minutes left in the game, and there's a corner kick, and he just yells at me to go in, and I haven't played at all the whole game. What? So I just ran on the field, and I remember Koyman was marking me, and he was looking at me like, who is this kid? And he's like, what's going on? And I know he was totally confused. So when he looked at me, I was looking at him. He looked away, so I ran. And the ball came, and I volleyed it in the corner. And then we went into overtime. So I scored with 2 minutes to go to send it to overtime. Then we go to overtime, and we won it. And after that, they gave me a little bit more. Finally, my, a month later, 2 later, I actually was doing a regular shift. But I only did that a couple times. And when the league folded, I didn't know, and I went on tryouts. So everybody said, you're so young, we don't know. I was in St. Louis for 3 months. Actually played in a couple preseason games. I did really good, and I just knew I couldn't do another year of just training, practicing, and not playing. And when this new league was starting out, Klaus DeVore called me, and he's like, look, I've talked to Tony Samoas, and if you come to Canton, you'll play. So I was like, okay, I know I needed to play games, and that's why I came to Canton, and he believed in me from day one. He said, you're playing. So that's where I really got my opportunity to show my skills and really develop me into who I was. So I owe a lot. I owe a lot to Canton. I became a citizen on that field. I got married at that stadium. So if you ever have the reunion game, I don't want to die there. So that's the only thing that's
left. Oh my gosh. So you come to Canton, and they're members of the AISA League.
Correct. I flew in. They flew me in from St. Louis, and I'm from Arizona. I was Scottsdale, Arizona, and I remember coming in. And the first day I was there, I called my girlfriend. I was crying. I don't know where I'm at. We were in this basement apartments, the whole team. I was roommate with Joe Pavlik.
Okay.
I was in this basement apartment in Canton. The whole team stayed there. It was so small, and I didn't have one long sleeve shirt, because I came there in like September. By October, this November, oh my God. So it was quite a bit of adjustment. And I went from, even in Canton, I did really, I mean, in Phoenix, the contract I signed was 5 times the amount what Canton was paying me. So I had to go back down to, new league, new pay, but it didn't matter, so because I, just wanted to continue to play and live my dream. And Canton was the place.
Right. What are so as you came into Canton
Mm-hmm.
and so young and you get to step in and it's this new franchise and you step into the spotlight and just blow up in the city of Canton. Um, what was it like? Did you feel like you were a star there? Did you everybody knew who you were and was what was it? What was that feeling like?
Um, so I've always felt indebted to the fans. I felt, they're the reason why you're signing a contract. Without fans, you couldn't have it. I never understood, in all the years I played, I've never charged anyone for an autograph or going an appearance. I just don't do that. In Canton, myself and Kenny Lola, we used to go to 2 schools every day. And that's how we kind of built the following. And to me, Canton was a unique place. It was a football town. This was a new concept. Soccer is like, people like, soccer. What's that? Football with its head cut off. So, and to me, it was such an intimate environment and the atmosphere, and it was, Midwest people are such blue collars and hard workers, and I, for me, they always looked at me as being the underdog, because I was the smallest guy in the league forever, wherever I went. So the home fans always cherish, kind of pull for you, and if you score, if you perform and you put everything on the battle, I everything I ever did was for the fans, and I did my job to, not let them down. That's why we stayed hours afterwards to sign autographs and till the last kid left, so just get to know them by person. I never signed just my name. I always ask them, what's your name? So I try to, make it personal, and because you can make a big effect on people. So I understood that responsibility, that you're not just, a player that's getting paid, and it has a lot of benefits, but for me, it's, you're a role model. So that comes with a lot of responsibility. And I really learned a lot of that from Kenny Lola. Kenny was captain of Duke. He had just graduated, captain of Duke. And, he was, I hung around with him a lot. He actually was my roommate the second year. And, that's where I really learned community service and values of giving it back. And the owners were really big on that, and they wanted you to win because, the town deserved the winner. It's Football Hall of Fame. A lot of great people came from there. So for years, it used to upset me when they say Ohio doesn't have champions. I was like, wait, Invaders and the Crunch and the Force are.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, as you know, in your first 3 seasons, you had 2 stints with the Invaders from the 80 starting in the 84-85 season and then through the 86-87 season, and then you come back as the Invaders are a member of the NPSL starting in 91 through the end of 94.
Right. I went to MISL for 5 years. Yeah.
Right. You played for the Kansas City Comets and the Tacoma Stars. I mean, that must have been an adventure, going to Kansas City and then all the way up to Tacoma, Washington. I was going to ask you, first of all, in Canton, how unique was it? Because I remember seeing this as a kid. How unique was it running out of the flashing smoke of the giant soccer ball with Captain Invader leading the way?
Right. It was, soccer is a big, especially indoor soccer. They had, so when I was in high school and the Inferno was around, I used to save my lunch money. I had a free ticket one time to the Phoenix Inferno, and they would put those flames out before they score. And I had just sat behind her, my first tickets, and I just fell in love with it. And I realized that it's all, a lot of entertainment, and I was just worried not to trip, and I was coming out of that ball. So the whole thing, having Captain Invader, it was a big thing, and it was unique. It was different, whoever we played, and the arena, because it's so small, but it's so intimate. If you have 3,500, I went from there to Kansas City, which we averaged 18,000 people, and I'm telling you, Civic Center was louder than $18,000 in Kemper Arena a lot of times. So it's a unique place. It was very, very, very unique. You had the stage in the one side, the fans over the goal on the other side, and you came in, you had the Captain Invader, and you had the go-kart that someone's going to shoot a goal. But by the way, that ball was very tough to fit in that hole.
I won't let anyone know the secret.
Yeah, it was. So I think it finally did. Someone finally, in my 3 years, made it once. Because you had to put it like perfect for it to go through. But yeah, so I really learned how to be a competitor, and winning is a culture. It's not just something. And the owners were very good at that, and I'm forever was indebted to them. So I learned that there. And then when I told you I was in St. Louis for 3 months, the coach that was there was Dave Clements, which had now became Kansas City's coach. So after 3 years in AISA, he called me and he's like, "Look, I know you went and done scored a lot of goals. You belong in this league." And I think back then it was like $15,000 that they bought me for. So I went from there to playing for Kansas City, and after that, I got traded to Tacoma on Christmas Eve.
Oh, that is a rough go there. That's not
Right.
nice. That is not very nice.
Yeah, so Dave Clemens said they have a tendency to want to motivate me, and like my one of my first games that I played for him, the very first year, even though I had a good preseason, he didn't dress me the very home opener because he thought I was so young still. But someone got hurt, so I went on the road, and when I was just sitting there and someone got hurt and I went on a power play, and my first 2 touches was 2 goals against Tacoma, actually. So that was how I started my Kansas City career. And I think my first year there, I scored 40 goals, and it was really competitive. So I earned my right to be there. But after 3 years, I just couldn't take the mental abuse. I asked for a trade and I ended up going to Tacoma, and I played for Peter Weller. Keith Weller, I'm sorry, Keith Weller. And it was a complete different environment. And then the league had some troubles. So I decided that, the league was going to fold. And I came 1 year before the league folded. To Canton.
Right.
So,
Right.
Then I started my news thing at, in Canton.
Okay. And so while you were in Canton, you got an education. You went to the Stark County branch of Kent State University, got your degree.
I didn't get my degree. So the only thing was, like, when I turned pro as a 17-year-old, I always felt like, well, I got to work on my mind too. I don't have a degree. I didn't have a college life. So I kind of, even in Kansas City, I went to school. I took some classes at Kansas State. So I studied for the sake of studying, but, not because I wanted a degree. But I never got a degree, but so I would say it was just as a part of my personal growth, I think at Kent, I took creative writing, calculus, and philosophy.
Now
So,
those are 3 different classes there.
yeah, exactly. Because I wasn't working for a degree. I just wanted things I was interested in.
Right. So all right, here's a key question for you. When you were during your time in Canton, favorite place to go for recreation, favorite place to eat?
John's Bar.
Yes, John's Bar when it was on Cleveland Avenue.
Yeah, because we live right behind there and I could walk there. So, and we went there always after the games, and they were very big fans. So that was my favorite place.
All right, and did you enjoy Pizza Oven pizza, or would you prefer one of the chains?
Well, as a part of my contract, I got paid for food, so Steve used to give me a lot of Italian food. So I would get like stuff they sold at his store. I would always get it. So that was part of my. So I ate a lot of Italian and the pizza food.
Yeah, definitely the Paxoses are well known in the Canton community, aren't they? In a
Yes,
good way, in a good way, of course. And obviously, as we were talking about, the working on this Canton Invaders reunion, the Paxoses, um, they met at their restaurant, their Papa Giros, and so yeah, fantastic. Um, so so your Canton days, you have your second stint in Canton, and then you go to the CISL, and you come around. I mean, you do end your career. You end up with the Cleveland Crunch
correct.
in the NPSL, and I guess two things. One is, you talked about starting from kind of like in the MISL, as you said, like the bigger league at that time, and then Kansas City had a larger arena. How amazing was it that although it wasn't stable, that there were two professional indoor soccer leagues in this country?
Well, I mean, MISL had its issues because it was only three Americans on the roster, so it didn't do much for the American player. AISA, you only have allowed to have seven foreigners, so it was a league with the idea that let the American play. For me, I was 21 years old and I had 150 games under my belt. So that's why when I went to MISL, I could perform, where you just don't get that in college. So um, yeah, it's bigger arenas, bigger, but soccer, is soccer. For me, I think my last year in MISL when the teams were down to 6, 7 teams, and salary cap was way below. I think my first year, there was like five people in Phoenix making $500,000, in my team for my first year. Then my last year in MISL, it was MLS. The salary cap was like $800,000 for 24 guys. So you know what I mean. So it just was so different, and the contracts were only 6 months. We used to play 48 games, and they cut it down to less games. So, but I always felt that NPSL AIS they had the right idea, and finally it became one. Because they allowed the American players to have a dream and play and contribute. So I know it really worked out for me. So I owe it all to the indoor game.
Right. And so who was your now you're really good friends with Ken, you talked about Kenny Lola. Um, Personalities on the Canton Invaders. Tim Tima, you know, uh,
Great competitor.
yeah, Steve
Love
Frick.
racehorses.
Yeah,
Would go through a brick wall. If there's a fight, you want him with you.
yeah. Who, other than playing in Canton, you talked about the crowd and the noise, the volume there. Where was your favorite place to play?
Well, I used to in the NPSL, I used to really like playing in Milwaukee against Milwaukee.
Did
We
they?
always when which used to be Louisville. Tozer was there, and then he had part of it in Milwaukee. So yeah, I used to really enjoy Louisville when the first time around because we played three championships against them, three or four, and then I really like Baltimore because the fans used to just. I mean, I was there on a night where 20,000 people yelling "Chia Pet, Chia Pet." They were yelling my name.
Oh,
Chia. So
wow.
I know. So I always like that when the fans were rough on me. It gives you more motivation. So
Right, 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 right. And
I played in Mexico. That was kind of unique. When I was in CISA, the first time we went to Mexico, the coach moved me. I go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, the other team said that they're going to come and take the highest scorer that night, and they take you to immigration and keep you up all night." And sure enough, he changed my room with two rookies, and they were they were hauled away at night to
oh
the
my goodness.
immigration, and they kept them up all night because they thought it was our leading scorers. So the stuff that goes on is just anything for anybody to get an edge is amazing.
Wow, that
So
that that is just fascinating stories there. I'm sure you have a many. I assume you're traveling on bus from city to city.
yes,
Oh,
the invaders bus trips were amazing. We used to sometimes the back row we didn't have, there was no seats. They took them off and had just mattresses for us so we can play cards, lay down. And I remember sometimes we won and we would play this game where everybody would be at the end of the bus and you start in the front of us and you had to run and 20 guys are tackling you.
Oh my
And then the
goodness.
snowstorm, the buses weave in, and a lot of good card games. And, just the whole, people don't really realize, the camaraderie of the teammates and stuff is, when you learn in coaching school, there's group dynamics. They tell you there's forming, storming, norming, performing, and then adjourning. I don't really believe in that in sports. I think once you play with a group of people, there's never really adjourning. You always have that bond with those players for the rest of your life. They were your warriors. So yeah, I met many, many, many great friends, and I try to stay in touch with a lot of them. And now everyone has kids, and we're watching their kids play, and it's just it's a big part of my life.
Right. And so what are you doing these days? I know this was like a little bit further in the past, but I believe I think at my time in high school at Glen Oak High School may have overlapped with when you were a coach there.
Sure, I told you I started coaching. So I coached Glen Oak because it was part of my community, and I always felt coaching high school was how you give back to the community. My kids ended up going to Glen Oak and playing soccer there, actually. So
Oh
I
wow.
coached there for 7 years. I was at Glen Oak for 7 years. After that, I've had stints of a lot of assistant coaching, positions with the colleges. At John Carroll, was assistant Ali Casamani for a little bit. I've done a lot of assisting at high schools, but my main focus is youth. I right now I run Chagrin and Solon's travel programs, and I also have my own club that's mainly made of Chagrin and Solon players. It's called Sporting Chagrin Valley. So we have about we're in the third year. We have about 220 kids, but yeah, soccer is 7 days a week. I do a lot of programming for both organizations, and to me, development is it's something unique. It's not. It's like gardening. It's not going to happen overnight. It's a process. You got to watch it grow. You tend to it, so you know you don't see the fruit of your labor till years later.
Right.
So, and that's one thing. And I tell a lot of people that I've been doing this for 40 years coaching, but it's only I don't know any other you know uh, job in the world that if you did it 40 years, you would know what's going to happen tomorrow. I would
Mhm.
pretty much guess that. Not in my work because I deal with children. I have no idea what they're going to say, what they're going to do. It's just I've dealt with a lot of situations. That I should be able to handle it because I've kind of seen it all in 40 years. But I really don't know what my players are going to say, do, feel. So you're learning constantly from them, rather than me teaching them. I've always felt that my job is knowledge transfer, but I learn as much from children as I do. And you have to, because if you want to be a part of them, you have to relate to them, So I hardly talk to the kids about my past. Some of them know I played, so but I don't really get into it. Just um, but that's really so because I don't want them to have the pressure. Oh my God, he was a pro. You got to be a pro. Because it's such a odd. Your chances are so low. So I encourage them to just be the best they can be, and if that's what they want to do, just understand what it is you want. You're gonna be a soccer player. You're gonna go through a lot of crying. It's not easy making it. A lot of doors are gonna get slammed in your face, and you got to keep going. And injuries happen, and it's not Unfortunately, a lot of kids think like it's like football. You sign one contract and you make billions of dollars, and then you don't have to work again. That's not how it is in soccer. So it's so in that sense, it's different. I see soccer is growing a lot in our country, and I quietly enjoy it. I still don't like to see what happens in the MLS and stuff because I just don't think it does much for the American player. The American player still has to go in the lower leagues, play in the second teams, and the ones that are lucky to go to Europe, they do well. But so it's challenging for the American player. and that's really
We don't like Messi to Miami. Messi to Miami, though.
Yeah. No, I mean that's huge, but you know what I mean. But what
Yeah,
does
but
that
Miami's
mean
not very good. Miami's
Well,
not very good.
we'll see if he lasts. I don't know how he's going to do coming from teams that won everything to a team can't win. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to be.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
He'll be coasting a bit. Like he just likes to hang out, and then he bursts, and then he'll hang out,
Well, he's
and
a
then he'll
big time
World Cup.
competitor. Yeah. Well, he wants more than any player in the world, but scores
Yeah.
goals. I mean, he's my favorite.
I mean, that's all that matters. Score some goals.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Do you think that the game has started to evolve here in the United States? We haven't had sustained success at an international level
on the men's side.
Yes,
the women are good. We're going for a third. I just want to point that out.
Yes, thank you very much for pointing that out, Madison. I my bad. No, but from the men's side of things, you know, they haven't had any kind of sustained success. They built up. We hosted the World Cup in 94, and you know we get the big win over Colombia, and you know it kind of built things up. But every time you seem to get expectations, unfortunately, they have not lived up to the hype. What can you attribute that to? Is it just the system that they're playing? Is it that the people are not as developed as well as they are in these other countries, like you know the Premier League? They've got their U17, their U19, their U21, and they've got the people in their academy that they've spotted off the streets. Is that where you come?
Well, look, winning professional, it's a culture. So Barcelona has a culture. Man United has a culture. In the academies, you know, there's a player that looks like they're number 9, that's built like him, looks like him, and they try to emulate it. Here, unfortunately, the way that our system is, you know, the next level for 95% of I would say 99% of the players is college. So they go through college, and college is the pathway to the pros. Now, you're having a lot of younger academy players signing as pros, but to me, still not the same because, you know, a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old in Europe has had many chances to be around professionals and play, and we just don't have that here. And MLS is, you know, a lot of European players and South American players, but not many Americans, you know, here and there a few. And they usually have to be athletically exceptional. You know, not so much as their skill level set is. So that's why, you know, we've struggled in, you know, creating Messis and Hollands of the world. You know, we do really good in goalies. We have a lot of good goalies. We've developed that, you know, defenders. But until Pulisic came around, you know, a little bit, you know, we've not had so many great forwards. You know, Dempsey did really well in Europe. You know, Landon Donovan did really good in Europe. But, you know, those are just here and there. You know, when you go to Brazil, for example, you know, has over about 7,500 players that are playing abroad as a pro. Can you imagine picking a professional team out of that? Versus, you know, we had less than 100, you know, that's playing in top leagues. So until that is solved, and as kids are growing up and they're understanding the culture, you know, we had the developmental academy for a while, but now that went away. Now, you know, there's this fight now between MLS academies and USL academies. So the youth is, you know, it's not the right path, and what they do, they're constantly changing. And you know, as a coach, and I've been, you know, I got my license, you know, I was 27, so I've gone to coaching schools a lot, and I cannot tell you how many times every year I go, well, we have this gentleman from French Academy that's running our system, and then next comes the Spanish guy who wants to duplicate Spanish, you know, and next is an American who wants to do so. We, you know, if a corporation changed direction every 3 years, you know, it would be tough for them to succeed. So for me, it's, you know, the development process in the rest of the world is a pyramid, where at top of it sits the national team and everybody listens to them. Here, because the high school association and NCAA, they don't have to listen to the U.S. soccer. So it's kind of it's our system. It's an upside down pyramid. Everybody starts at the bottom and it's very top heavy. So depends on where you live. If you're in California, Florida, Carolinas, you're lucky. When's the last time, other than Darlington Nagby, we had anybody from Ohio on the national team? So it's tough. It's especially from Midwest, and I've always rooted for where I live, for those players, for that, for that schools in that town and that colleges. So, I want homegrown. And that's why I love developing from a young age up, rather than recruiting and working and getting other clubs' best players together. So that's kind of the path here. That's where the disconnect is. And to be honest, it's difficult to do in this country because there's so many geographical areas. You can't dictate anything. Some places they play soccer in the spring, some places they play in the fall. So that's difficult to have a common calendar, which the rest of the world does. They have a common calendar, they have promotion, relegation, and those things are just tough to create in America. And that's why, although I thought we had a really good World Cup, and then come back and deal with the nightmare and the mess that was after that, which only in America, that just makes us laughing stock of the world, So, yeah, I mean, I live it. This is I'm in it. So I've always, you want it to grow, but I've never had the dreams like we're gonna win the World Cup someday. I hope so, but I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Yeah,
Right.
To be fair, some of the post World Cup drama was like youth soccer level drama.
Absolute nightmare.
To be
like
frank,
only
yeah.
in America. Only in America.
Hey, it's all good now. Everybody's back. Everybody's happy, right?
Yeah, I know, but we were like the laughing stock of the world.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean it's really embarrassing, but it was
like
kind of funny how it all went down.
Soccer mom story.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. No, definitely.
Right. Now that brings a good question to my mind, Kia. The soccer parents. I'm not going to say soccer mom. I'm going to say soccer parents because it's everybody. It's moms, dads, it's whomever the caregivers are. How
Sure.
difficult is it to work with them when they think that their child is the supreme star and they want them to play, but you're saying, hey, they've got to earn it. So, maybe they won't get as much playing time. How do you handle that?
It's extremely difficult, as there's all different types of soccer parents. There's helicopter parents, there's Velcro parents, there's missing parents. There's you have a lot of parents come to you. I played, pro, and it's because the hardest thing is that people don't understand how to measure a process. So, and they're not, they don't, some parents are really good at it. Some people are not because it's a new sport to them. But years ago, I was picking up Chinese food, and I was picking up Chinese food. It was in Chinatown, actually, in Cleveland. And the guy asked me, "What do I do?" And I said, "Well, I kind of do what you do. I am in charge of making a meal. My customers bring one ingredient to me, but they like to come back in the back of the kitchen. Some of them and go, 'Hey, what are you doing? The temperature's too hot. Hey, make sure you use this.' And some of them will come in and yell at me for why are the dishes this way, and some of them don't even pay and they just leave. they stay, eat, and they go away. So it's kind of like what you do, where my hands are tied behind my back. I'm trying to create something, but they want to mess with it, and you just I'm actually okay with parents because I talk to them in a way, and I pretty frank with them. I'm like, look, you're paying us for our services, which is training and you're paying me to be in charge of your kids' development. If you want to be in charge of the kids' development, then you don't need me. Just go, just go and train them however you want, and go. But I know I follow the stages of development. Up until 12, it's the romance stage. I want them to fall in love with the sport. I don't want to have A and B teams. When they're 8, 9 years old. You guys can call it that, but if you have multiple teams, it's because we're trying to grow for future. It's not just for one team. So parents don't have a very short-term view. They don't see the long term. But I think a lot of them think it's like resume building. Those are the ones that really worry me, because they think you have to play in this league, and you've had a kid from ages of 5 to 13 and he's the best in town, and all of a sudden they go, well, we need to go here because they're playing in this league. And I'm like, well, yeah, but that's nothing to do with the kids' development. Which platform you play at is really, I had a team long time ago in Cleveland where 18 of them went to Division I school, 13 of them went full ride, 11 of them turned pro, and they won 0 state cup. They never won the state cup, because we always play younger players. We won the regional league, by winning a league, but when it came to state cup, because it's one weekend, just one game, that doesn't equify to the seasons and stuff that you're doing. So, there's a big emphasis on winning, not developing. So, which is, I don't really like that. They have to be patient with kids, and a lot of the, parents do force development, where they force their kids to go to 5 trainers or 6 trainers, and you have to do this, or some say you got to play multiple sports, but the kid only wants to play soccer. And I've always said, what's wrong with that? If that's what they want, just let them do it. Just listen to them. So it's just constant. To me, the parents got to work and the coaches got to work as partners. We have to take. It takes a village to raise a child. So we have to work together, and we understand what our roles are and what the limits are, and how, if they want to turn pro, they have to want it for the right reasons. And, I always say, that we're guides. I'm just a guide. I can show you how to get there, but you got to do it. I can't run for you. I can't be on the field for you. So, and our goal as a youth coach, I've always known this, as my job is done when they go away and they don't need me anymore. I've had so many players like Justin Morrow, who played for national team, he's one of the most loyal players I've ever had. He called me one day after he had retired, and he's like, he wanted to thank me about the stuff we did as a youth to get him ready for college, because he said in college he never learned any of those. If we hadn't done those stuff, before college, his life wasn't the same. So, so, and I'm a big man of faith, and I always say, just serving the children we just serve God. We just make it look like soccer.
Right. And one other question I was curious about, because you are dealing with children, you're bringing them up through the stages, and this is just out of curiosity. You played indoor soccer, so you played on a turf.
Sure.
Do you think it hurts kids these days, like college athletes, that they're going to their in college institution and they're playing, or even high schoolers for that matter, they're playing on field turf as opposed to playing on grass?
Right. So in what I do with youth in my own club, I make sure that throughout the year they experience 3 surfaces. I want them on grass, I want them on turf, and I want them on court, futsal.
Okay.
So, because that the reason Brazilians are so good, and they have sand because they do sand soccer. They by the time a kid's 10 years old, he's learned to play in 4 different surfaces, and it's 4 different games, and it's great for skill development when you can control the ball on any surface. You would think a lot of our high school players who play on turf have good skills, but that's actually, most high school players don't have much of a skill at all. But turf gives you the perfect bounce, a little faster, but it's not natural bounce as the grass is. But if a player learns to control the ball in all the surfaces, overall they become good players, in my opinion. And that's what we try to enforce. And some people think like all you need to do is play futsal, and that's not. It's a combination of things. It's not just one thing. That makes a player, especially when they're young. When they're 10, 11, 12, 13, I want them to experience everything. Grass, playing on fields that you can't even pass. Then that happens a lot. It's like a cow pasture that's lined. So you
Right.
got to go play. So. But that, those are the challenges, when you go to Africa and you go to a lot of, third world countries, I mean, they're playing on dirt. They're creating players that grew up not playing on grass at all. They just play on dirt and rocks, so imagine that, we don't do that here, but so that's one thing America has on, we take it for granted, is our facilities. Our facilities are far greater than any nation in the world for the youth.
Right.
But just for that, you would think we would turn in more players, but we get involved in, this league, that league, this club, that club, and it just, it's a huge business become. And unfortunately, a lot of the kids kind of get lost in it, so it's not easy.
No, and Madison, I don't know if you did this with basketball, but Kia, my niece, she's just graduated high school down in North Carolina, and she's going to be going playing soccer for Gardner Webb. But during her high school year, she was in a travel league and was just all over the place. And the places my sister-in-law and brother-in-law had to take her, and the cost associated with it,
Sure.
I mean,
Mhm.
that's a lot to ask of people. And is that in any way, shape, or form harming the talent pool in terms of, if you don't have the financial means, you're not going to get the exposure?
Sure, but it's changed. I mean, every club also has players who can't afford it, and they give them a scholarship. But yeah, I mean, normally soccer is, in America, it's a suburb sport versus the rest of the world, it's inner city sport. So that's one big difference between what happens in America or what happens, in Brazil.
Right.
In Brazil, they got those futsal courts in every community. Those are the playgrounds. No, they don't have the basketball courts where kids go shoot at. They have the futsal courts. That's, got the fenced-in goals, and every community has it. And then right next to it is the sand field, that the kids go play, and they play for their school. That's part. Almost every kid plays there for their school. So it's very different. What we
Right.
have here, and the cost of it's outrageous right now. I mean, a lot of people that when they come to me, they bring a 9-year-old. They go, well, I want my kid to get a college scholarship. I'm like, listen, take your money right now that you're going to pay for soccer, just put it in stock market. By the time he's in high school, we're going to have well worth pay for his college. If you're spending all this money and time, you're thinking you're going to get a scholarship, don't do it. That doesn't make any sense.
Every parent wants to do that. I feel like they want
Yeah,
they
but
want
they don't
their kids to
understand.
go to college and get it paid for. That's their goal, and the kid's too young to even know that could even be what they want.
Well, the football team, the football team carries 80 players. Every single player in a football team has a full ride. Basketball has 16 players. Everyone has a full ride. Soccer is 9.6 in the men's side, 10.2 for the women's side, I think.
Yeah.
And it's for 24, 28 players. So the odds of getting a full ride in soccer is almost non-existent.
Yeah.
Most of the Division I coaches that I know, they save the full ride for their European players, or they go across the world to bring a player in. It's not done to the kid. Is where I just teach them, like, look, if you got a 4.0, you're going to get academic money anyways. And the academic money is a lot of times greater than academic money. than a athletic buddy. So and then if you're a good student, that's the key. I've never been someone that just, my players, even my own kid, if they got a C, they didn't play.
I
You
love
have
it.
to have good grades, so soccer is a privilege, and, you have to do good in school to be able to go ahead and be a good soccer player, in my opinion. So,
I think it all kind of works together.
right.
You got to put in that kind of effort in everything you do, and you got to work, like you said, your mind, body, soul. You got to work all three of those things, all the time. So, yeah. So it sounds like you're pretty busy there. You're enjoying your vacation.
Yes.
And once again, I mean, this has been fascinating, wonderful to chat about this, hear your history, and thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for all that you gave to Canton. Thank you for all that you're giving back to the community and the kids that you're teaching and coaching. Um, you're a fantastic role model for
Well, I
people.
appreciate it. Well, I say my thanks, every morning I wake up to Jesus and God. Thank you for allowing me to be in this position to do that. To working with children and being in this sport, it's just so rewarding. I'm 57 now, so to be able to still coach, 15 games on the weekends, to me is priceless. you
Yeah,
know, and being around children and just help them grow, and you know, when they're having a tough day, it's easier to get mad at them and yell at them. But, end of the day, it's letting them come and cry on your shoulder and be there for them. It's okay. I tell my kids, my club is, if we lose, it's my fault. I'm the adult. I'm the ex-pro. We lost. It's my fault. I didn't prepare you enough. We win. It's you guys. When we tie, we ask God what happened. so, so to take the pressure off of them, and a lot of them even at 9, 10 don't agree. What do you mean, coach? If we lose, it's your fault. I'm like, yeah, it is. I'm the one that's supposed to get you. Don't worry about it. Just go play. So
I love the philosophy. I love that. It's refreshing. It's definitely refreshing to hear. Well, I am going to let you get back to your vacation.
well, thank you
Um,
so much.
thank you very much for being with us, folks. That is the one and only Kia Zolgerhain. Thank you very much for joining us here this evening on Going Nuclear full blown coverage of the land. Have a great rest of your vacation. Thank you, Kia.
Thanks. God bless. Bye bye.
Madison, that was fantastic. I don't know how much you were able to find online. It was kind of a bit of a dig there to find the information on Kia, but
Mhm.
just a amazing story of how he arrived here from Iran and how limited his opportunities were there as a youth, but how he made the most of it and turned it into a wonderful professional career.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot because I started coaching when I was young too, when I was in high school, and I'm very interested in his style. It mirrors my style, I feel like. So I think we have a lot in common with that. But it was cool to hear him still be so passionate about it. Obviously, I got out of coaching not because I didn't love it. I think it was a little bit because the parents were hard to deal with, but he has a level head about it, it sounds like. But yeah, he's doing really good work. Obviously, had a great career, and to give back like that is really cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully, the United States soccer will someday turn it around here on the men's side. On the men's side,
Thank,
the women
thank
they've
you.
got it figured. They've got it figured out. The men's side, hopefully, they figure it out too. That would be an added bonus. But I mean, um, certainly we are well represented as a country by the women. Um, and folks, just, Madison and everybody, hopefully next week we are working hard to get a guest. We are hoping to have the one and only Nick Paulus from ESPN Cleveland. He is on Saturday mornings. Paul and Paulus, he's a huge Ohio State fan, just a great sports guy. Got a chance to meet him in person last week. We weren't on last week, and let me tell you, Madison, Kia talked about his passion and 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 kind of living it and the amount of hours you put into it and just meeting the folks that I met in Cleveland last week at the ESPN Cleveland block party, those were guys that have put in the time uh, in broadcasting, and they're obviously it's not just about the broadcasting; it's the knowledge of the sports and whatnot. Um, so really, it's interesting in all facets of life where you see those people who are succeeding, how they have gotten there. I'm sure you see it. You've seen it in through your coaching, your playing days, and even in your professional days now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I actually, one of the questions I wanted to ask is like, what, no, you're good. You're good. Don't feel bad about it. We talked to him forever. I would have asked a million questions, so don't feel bad. But like all the different pieces you pick out from coaches you had when you go to coach your own team, and like what he took from everybody that he, was involved with, and coaches he had throughout his career and especially his professional career, and what he kind of instills into his players now. That was one of the things I was interested in, to see, what he had to say about that. Because every coach, whether good or bad, always has an impact, right, on things, or managers for that matter, in business and in work. And like you always say, like, oh, well, I would never do that, or like that for sure I would do. And stuff like that. So I think all that stuff's really interesting.
It absolutely is. So next week we'll come back. Nick, hopefully we'll be able to have Nick on. We'll have a lot of fun. We can talk about things that have us going nuclear. I've got a few of them. I'm building up. It's getting to be a lot here. A lot of things that have me going nuclear, both from a outsider's perspective, watching our favorite teams in the land, and just other things in life that always will get you going. So hopefully it'll be a fun one, and everybody can tune in next week. Madison, thank you as always for being here. Glad we were on tonight. That was great having Kia on, and we'll look forward to next week. And once again, you've been watching Going Nuclear, full-blown coverage of the land presented by Buzz Sports CLE. You can find us on Twitter at Going Nuclear CLE. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us there. Thank you so much, and have a good night.